steps to combat gender biases in AI, and how we can collectively create a more inclusive and equitable future, ultimately inspiring us all to rethink our role in technology and commit to redefining what's possible starting right now. Let me introduce our amazing members of this panel. First, we have Nakshathra, who will be sharing her insights on from risk to resilience, shaping a tech-positive future for women. She will be examine the impacts of technology facilitating crimes and how we can leverage technology for good to ensure the safety of women online, inspiring us to proactively think about our relationship with technology and support the ethical technology movement. Next will be talk from Safita, who will be leading a discussion on building an inclusive future, approaches to mitigate gender bias in AI. And finally, we will have Jessica, who will be sharing her experience on making the leap from developer to leader. So please join me in giving a huge virtual round of applause to Nakshathra. I'll stop sharing so you can share your screen. Okay, so now you're in moderate role and you can share your screen.
Hi, hopefully you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you. Perfect.
Okay, cool. Let me just share my screen. Let's come up. It's not coming up. My shared screen.
You have moderator mode and presenter mode, so you should be able to share your screen. I'll let you do this.
All right, give me 1 second. Let me share from another link.
Yes, and I check one more time. You have all roles, moderator and presenter.
Yep. Yep, okay. So, I'm just going to see whether I can share. Okay, that should come up. Do you see that?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to start now. Let me know if I stop at any time. Hopefully, this should be sharing in full screen with what you're seeing.
Okay.
Cool. Sorry for the voice. I've kind of lost my voice and I have a cold and a cough, but hello everyone. It is an honor and privilege to be here at the International Women's Day event, Redefine Possible, hosted by Google developers group, Women Techmakers. My name, as I have been so kindly introduced by Anna, you from Australia. It is currently 12 a.m. here, and I hope this session empowers you with an understanding of the risks of technology and how we can build resilient futures for all women and non-binary folks around the world. Firstly, I would like to start with an acknowledgement of country. So this is acknowledging the traditional owners on the land on which I meet you today. For me, it is the Darug people of the Eora Nation on whose lands I live and work. I would like to extend that to anyone who has joined us here today. Please feel free to drop in the chat where you are joining in from and the name of the custodians of your land to acknowledge their continued connection to the country. And happy belated International Women's Day. This year's theme from the Women Techmakers is Redefining Possible. It's especially important as we continue to advance into uncharted territories with technology. Let's all come together, change the definition of what is possible for us, and foster a safer, inclusive conversations on technology. Also, a few quick disclaimers. Please note that this session will only cover general information, research, and insights relating to the impacts of technology-facilitated crimes and how we can leverage technology for good to ensure the safety of women online. None of the information provided to you during this session is intended to offer legal, financial, business, information technology, or any other professional advice. The session will also cover topics for some individuals. Please ensure to do what is right for you, including disengaging from this talk and contacting your local helplines. So a little bit about me and why it is relevant to this panel. I am a cybercriminologist, a digital and tech safety public speaker, and an academic at the University of New South Wales. My entire life will be devoted to creating safer digital communities, and I tackle this from a social science perspective. I redefined what was possible for me. I could have been a cybercriminologist and an academic my entire life, but I chose advocating for social sciences when it came to artificial intelligence and technology. I'm also an entrepreneur. I'm the co-founder of Iris, a safety tech consultancy that focuses on helping startups and companies in the tech ecosystem think about human-centered design, safety by design, and social science principles to reduce harm when deploying their products and their services. We also provide education and training around digital safety, combating cybercrime, and unpacking AI to generate greater social organizations. Please get in touch. I've also put my LinkedIn there. I would welcome anyone to connect with me and just talk further about how I can help you. Now, you might be wondering, why is this topic important and why are we discussing this here today? Technology-facilitated crimes disproportionately affect women and non-binary individuals and those with intersectional identities. With the permeation of more recent forms, such as generative artificial intelligence and the world's others that are offered by other big tech companies in our daily lives, has allowed for an increase in this figure. This means that you need to equip yourselves and your communities to be prepared for evolutions in the internet, including language, vernacular, and the experience of those who are most vulnerable to experiencing the harms of the digital world. This is where the social science element comes into play and is super important for those who are technical. While there is no one-size-fits-all solution for these issues, I would like to technologies. I would like for you to remember this, and I will reference this later. So really quickly, humans create tech for humans. That's your community. Communities create impact for society, which is social impact. And social impact creates change for humans. Just keep this in mind. Before I go any further, I'd like to touch on two definitions. So harms may be psychological or environmental damages. It can be intentional or unintentional and may be as a consequence of a crime. Digital safety brings contextual and social influences that a machine won't understand, hence why humans need to recognize and evaluate the safety implications for their users in any technology that is created or developed for other humans. If you are a developer that is creating technology for others, most of you will only consider its compliance with legislation, or your product or your platform might be security compliant. You have to consider how to create the responsible and ethical uses of its features and its services in order to be safer for your users. Sorry. Now, you might be talking about harms in a very outside of this context, but I'd like to bring it back to what we know. So, in recent years, artificial intelligence has especially amplified the rate of technology. Deepfakes refer to the creation and distribution of artificially generated and often intimate images, videos, and sounds of individuals. Individuals use generative AI to create deepfakes, whether malicious, sexual, or not, and distribute these through multiple telecommunication and internet channels. These images, while fake, are also highly realistic to the human eye. What was originally defined as image-based abuse now includes deepfake, seemingly normal photos of individuals to extort and blackmail for economic, physical, and psychological control over their victim survivors. The ability to create and possess exploited material that involves minors and young people are becoming increasingly accessible, especially in schools, and this number is rising in millions. Similar to deepfake abuse, the perpetration of this horrific crime is truly an example of how the most vulnerable in our society can be left to fend for themselves online. How can deepfakes even exist? Actually have gaps in the way that they produce their technology. And we can catch this beforehand if we have preventative solutions that are not just focused on the technical aspect. Cyberstalking. Similar to traditional offline stalking, current definitions of cyberstalking are based around the emotional responses that victims experience as the consequence of their perpetrators' behaviors. Now, generative AI in particular has not helped this cause, as many do not have the digital literacy to comprehend how to be misused. Subsequently creates a barrier for victims who have to prove the extent of their fear and their emotions to law enforcement, who are allowed to make a subjective judgment of the cyberstalking incidents. Victim survivors of cyberstalking not only undergo some of the most horrific experiences with the criminal justice system, but without the presence of something physical, like a physical threat that is actually being there, law enforcement do not intervene, as they do not find that digital harms and digital psychological stress. Artificial intelligence has amplified the rate of cyberstalking, where people have used tools to breach the privacy of individuals and use this information to dox and reveal information about them online to strangers. Disinformation refers to false information that is purposely distributed to create negative and harmful narratives. It should not be mistaken for misinformation, which does not have malicious intent. Generative AI is notorious for creating false news content and non-existent citations that are highly likely, especially with the rise of fake websites, AI-generated videos of individuals, and insider social media accounts that can amplify the distribution of disinformation. In the hands of malicious actors, disinformation has risen drastically around the world. This especially affects a lot of women who are in the public spotlight. This includes politicians, celebrities, and high-profile figures. Alongside the previously mentioned deepfakes, disinformation during election periods, which encourages the tarnishing of reputations of female politicians. The majority of global population are unable to recognize the difference between real and altered text, images, and audio that has been shared or distributed in online spaces. Oftentimes, they might redistribute these images not knowing that this is actually fake. The rise of frauds and scams and privacy breaches over the last few years has especially been due to artificial intelligence. These models understand how to create hyper-realistic sounding emails and messages with mostly those who are not, including the elderly population, and those who belong to culturally and linguistically diverse groups, as well as women who do not have the ability to ascertain AI literacy. AI can modify malicious code in real time to evade traditional detection system, making malware more adaptive and effective. This also applies to data leakages and private information being misused or manipulated for outside the purposes in which it was initially collected. You might be wondering what I say. There is technology facilitated interface violence, which I have mentioned before. This covers a range of different types of technology facilitated abuse and can range from cyberbullying all the way to image-based abuse and disinformation as well. Hallucinations refers to inaccurate and incorrect outputs, also known as noise, which can be especially deadly for artificial intelligence if the training of large language models does not have diverse, comprehensive, and measured data sets. A lot of the speakers were mentioning this before, and we talk about this in the context of keeping humans in the loop. Evaluation of these data sets are key to unlocking safety for machine learning. I'd also like to raise users' relationships with AI to substitute human relationships. For example, using ChatGPT and Claude and other similar chatbots as therapists, grief counselors, and confidants. Often these relationships with generative AI chatbots are not governed due to the ever-advancing state of these technologies. Pseudo-companionship refers to the many instances of artificial intelligence. As I said before, the usage of these chatbots and services often mimic what we know through our humans as community and counseling. Emotional expressions that we would often see with other humans are being used in these services, as well as voice and audio content that mimics these real-life human interactions. Victim survivors who are extremely vulnerable will use AI chatbots for substitute for community, psychological support, and may be at increased risk of danger of taking their own life. Ties to nature. For example, researchers were able to identify that ChatGPT has patriarchal capabilities. In this particular study, the author asked ChatGPT to produce a performance review for both John and Jane, two fictional account managers. John received a higher review in comparison to Jane, with significant differences in the language used to describe their performance. The fictional woman was given feedback and suggestions to be placed on performance plans. In stark contrast, the fictional man was rewarded for his behavior with suggestions on how he could shift positions in their company. Obviously, you can tell how that discriminates against women, and these are harmful narratives that are increasingly being used by our lack of discretion when using artificial intelligence. Lastly, I'd like to cover a brief case study that ties all this information together. Crush on AI is a platform that has had the ability to use generative AI to recreate an image so that the person is nude. A man used Crush on AI to create his own chatbots and impersonate his victim. One such victim details were leaked on these chatbots, which encouraged strangers to come to her home. Crush on AI is not the only nudify application that exists, as majority of these services work on women and can result in blackmail and extortion, which you already know, as I have mentioned, disproportionately affects women. In December 2024, Crush on AI recorded a staggering 27.81 million visits, with over 75% of the users being males between the ages of 18 to 34. Crush on, but due to the nature in which it could be misused, has now turned into one. While these types of AI platforms encourage creativity, they do not protect privacy, especially those of women. Now, you might be wondering, how do we actually build resilience? Firstly, make sure you're continuously upskilling in relation to technology, safety, and governance. Like any other technology, the rate at which it is advancing means that the knowledge that you had yesterday might be vastly different tomorrow. How can you build digital trust and literacy within your own communities? Make sure you are championing those values. If you are not, see where you can improve on your own as well as your teams. Secondly, align your models with human values. Think about fairness, privacy, transparency, and accountability. Remember, cybercrime is not just about implementing technical guardrails. Advocate for those intersectional and safety-oriented policies in your workplaces with a focus on the various cybercrimes that can occur at the interpersonal level. And lastly, encourage safety by education across all the levels of your organization for these. First being service provider responsibility, which I anticipate will be most of you. So not just you as developers, but think about UX designers, product teams, and engineers and what their responsibility is to foster safe digital environments. The second is user empowerment and autonomy. How are you ensuring ongoing informed consent with your ultimate end user, ensuring that they are always in the loop about what you are doing. Last being transparency and accountability. How do you communicate what you are doing to vulnerable audiences and those who do not have digital literacy? Are you compounding this with additional information and ensuring that they are feeling safe? How do you continuously have that feedback cycle? I hope you remember the quote that I had mentioned earlier. These are the slight tweaks that I've made for it. Humans create safe tech for humans, which means that it's community. Can create social impact, and social impact creates safety for humans, and the cycle repeats. When we transition from risk to resilience, our empowerment comes from safety. Let us all build a safer, resilient future for women and non-binary individuals around the world and redefine what is possible. Please get in contact with us if you feel like there is synergy with what you're currently working on, and thank you very much for having me.
Oh, thank you for joining. I'm so sorry. Get well soon. So,
Thank you so
uh,
much for having me.
yes, and one more time, congratulations with International Women's Day. So, and it seems that Sapita, you can start sharing your screen.
Yeah. Hi. Hello, Anna, and hi,
Right.
everybody.
Hello, everyone. Yes. So I introduced you a little, introduced your talk. So you're welcome. It's your time. Share your screen, please.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Let me see if I can share my screen.
Yes, you should. I hope because yes, I see that you have moderate and presenter mode.
Yeah. Yes, I'm trying to share. Mm, okay. Can you see my deck?
Yes, so we can see your screen.
Okay. Okay.
Perfect.
Um, yep. So, hello everybody. First of all, belated wishes for a very, very happy International Women's Day 2025. I hope all of you are, very committed into accelerating action. And thank you, Anna, for having me and inviting me to share a little bit on mitigating gender bias in AI today. Before I start off, a little bit about me. I'm Shobita and I'm joining you today from Bangalore, India. I work with Salesforce in the engineering side and have almost 2 decades of experience in the industry so far. Have tried a lot in different technologies, tools, and platforms and domains as well. And I'm a huge advocate of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I've been working tirelessly for past 6-7 years, trying to enable and support fellow women, be that in profession or even I've been mentoring a lot of girls, girl students from college and enabling them to be career ready. I've been a Women Techmakers ambassador since 2023 July, and enjoying my journey so far. And this has really given me a global platform, to impart my experience and share my learnings with a larger audience of people. So very glad to be here today and talking to you all a little bit about the gender bias in AI, the different aspects of it, where do we find it, how do we combat it, what can we do, and what can in general the AI practitioners do to reduce the gender bias in AI. So let's go into the session now. So let me start with a little bit of what how AI bias looks like and how what is the impact it has on the society. So I'm trying to introduce to you two different examples or scenarios. The first one being the instance of a lady called Jenny Weave. In 2019, she and her husband applied for the same credit card. So, despite having slightly better credit score and the same income, expenses, and debt as her husband, the credit card company set Genevieve's credit limit at almost half the amount. Now, what does this show? This clearly shows that there was some level of bias in the algorithm that was used, right? And there is also a similar instance. A husband and a wife compared their Apple Card spending limits and found that the husband's credit line was 20 times greater. Customer service employees, when they checked with them, were unable to explain why the algorithm deemed the wife significantly less credit worthy. So these are two examples which are very very real, and it shows the stark reality of the gender bias that exists in this society in many areas, starting from finance or tech, and specifically in today's world of generative AI and AI intruding into all areas of our life like healthcare, finance, and you take it, we have AI everywhere, right? So these two instances really show us that there is a lot of things, there's a lot of impact of all these actions, or all these, there are a lot of consequences on the society, and we really need to do something about it. So let us see, where else do we find gender bias in AI, and what are some of the statistics, what are some of the data that we have currently available? So there was Berkeley conducted a specific study on 150 AI systems, and what they found out was very shocking. 44 percentage of the AI systems show that they have gender bias. So this is like almost close to 50%, right? Almost half of the systems have a gender bias is what it shows, which is definitely not so great. I mean, considering the future we are marching towards, this is definitely not good news for us. And let's take the NLP and voice assistants. You take Apple's Siri, Amazon's Alexa, Microsoft Cortana, and even the Google Map voice assistant, right? All of them have female voices. And we try to give them instructions and they take the instructions, right? Have you come across any of the voice assistants who have male voices? Not really, right? Very rarely, I would say. So all this show that it is always the female voice, or the females, or the are probably a little bit on the lower side or the underprivileged side, and there's a clear bias that exists in the society against females. Now let's also try some word associations or embeddings. We all have tried different generative AI like ChatGPT and all the other systems that are available, right? When we try to see, or even the images. For example, I've tried the Microsoft Bing image creator. When I always try to see tech related images, the most of the images, the majority of the images that come to me are from men. The images will have men portrayed, very less women will be portrayed. Same thing when it comes to different professions like doctor. When it is a doctor, AI always associates it with a man, and when it is a nurse, it's associated as it's with a woman. So that is a difference that we already see. Now there are also computer vision systems which show that there are higher error rates for women, and those with darker skin tones it is even more. So how are all these coming in? The reason is that majority of the AI professionals are men. So almost 78, or almost if you see, the 80 percentage of the AI professionals are men, which says that only 20 percentage of the AI professionals are women. So if the diversity in the AI tech people itself is less, then obvious it is very obvious that the AI systems what they spit out will also have a bias, right? Now we can also take a couple of emotion related instances. Like AI definitely classifies, there's some misclassification of information. AI definitely tends to classify people from a certain demography. When it comes to race or gender, it can be based on different things, that they are they often get more angry than the other, or it can be something to do with gender, or it can be something to do with race also. So all this different information shows us that there is a very very clear gender bias in the current AI systems and algorithms. Now, how does this gender bias occur? So there are multiple reasons why this gender bias occur. I already talked about the number of AI professionals. Men are, a majority, right? So there are, there can be an incomplete or skewed training data set. So all the AI models, obviously, we know are trained, and these training data sets are skewed. Means are there enough other genders contributing? Are people from not just females? In the current situation, we have non-binary or transgenders, right? Are other genders also contributing, or is it all males who are kind of training the data set? So the majority of the data set, what it is, based on that, the bias will also be more. Then comes the labels used for training. So who makes the AI, who does the labeling for the AI data sets? It is humans, and all of us humans have some level of conscious or unconscious biases, right? So with these unconscious or conscious biases will reflect in the labels that we do also. So that is another reason why gender bias occurs so much in AI. And then the next thing is the features and the modeling techniques. So some of these measurements are used as inputs for the machine learning models. For example, if you take a text to speech or speech to text conversion, so most of those software or algorithms are trained for male voices. So people who are taller, people who have longer vocal cords, and people who have a lower pitch of voices. So if those models are tried to be applied to females, it wouldn't be great. So a speech recognition or text to speech conversion for a female will definitely have a higher error rate than any male, mainly because it is not trained to be so. We females have a lower pitch of voice, shorter vocal cords, and the different way of speaking, the tone of speaking itself differs from males to females, right? This clearly shows that how they fail, or how they are like imperfect. The AI systems will be imperfect when they are used for females. Now, why is it important to overcome bias? We all know we are currently in a very fast paced world, wherein women are also equally contributing to technology and all other spheres in life, and we are also trying to progress and come up to speed with all the other things that are happening. Now, let's say if AI has a very huge amount of bias and it screens job candidates with the current state, what it has, it may screen job candidates to choose more of for more of males, or choose all men. Then obviously it is biased. Then it can also cause problems for facial recognition software. So we use facial recognition software for security in many places, right? The airports, or even if it is a theater or a sports arena, wherein we have the tickets and we have to scan our faces to go in. So with the current level of bias, those problems can also creep in a lot, and we have obviously facial recognition even on our phones right now. And gender is not just binary anymore. So we just don't have just females and males, right? We have transgenders, we have people who are non-binary, and their expressions and their right to live a fair life as much as any of the other genders is very very important. So to go to have an inclusive world or an equitable future, is very very important that we overcome the biases and also train the AI to get past the bias that it currently has, and have more inclusive and more fair decisions. So let's see how A can overcome gender bias. There are multiple things that we can do. I guess the first thing that all of us can do is address the gender bias in the society itself. We all know the society is not devoid of bias, but we should try to have more actions and more awareness in the society against gender bias, so that that will reflect in AI as well. And for this, a very, very inclusive governance model is needed. So the AI models should be checked and monitored very regularly to see how much of fairness is there and how much of inclusivity is there. Only then, with a good governance model in place, we can achieve a probably a gender neutral world. And diverse training samples for AI. So we already talked about this, right? There are, most of the training data is for males, not many for females. So we should probably have more data for females and other genders and people from different regions, different races, different ethnicity, etc., so that AI is uh, more bias free, basically. Then the humans labeling the samples. Right now, most of the AI professionals are males. So if they label the samples, obviously the bias will be there. So we should have more people, more professionals from different backgrounds who are labeling the AI data sets. Then measure the accuracy levels separately for different demographics. Uh, this is like, currently for, let's say, again, we take the example of males and females. The accuracy levels are different, we all know that. So we should have some system in place to measure the accuracy levels separately for different demographics and give more weightage for the underrepresented samples. And another way is collecting more training data associated with sensitive groups. When it comes to non binary groups or minority groups, have more data, more training data collected so that the AI model is trained more with those data. Then apply the modern ML debiasing techniques. We will be talking about a little bit of an overview of the debiasing techniques in my upcoming slides as well. Diverse employees or women at all levels. Right now, we all know that though entry level women, more of women are there. When it goes to the leadership sector, the number of women are really less. So we should make women more equipped to lead and to reach the leadership levels so that it is, AI become that also influences the AI models. Engage with gender experts. At each level of developing the AI systems, there should be engagement with gender experts to see how much of bias is there and how can we reduce that bias. Future research to consider data with broader representation. We all know that currently there is a lot of research which is happening. With future research, there should be a conscious effort to consider more data which has broader representation from the all the other minority or the underrepresented groups. These are some of the ways that we can do. We can help AI overcome the gender bias. Now, we will discuss a little on, see, I'm from the being from the technical background, I couldn't help that I include a little bit of technicalities also here, though I wouldn't be diving so deep into it. It'll be just an overview of some of these techniques that we'll be going through today. So there are many modern machine learning debiasing techniques, and some of these debiasing techniques that they address the algorithmic bias by focusing on three things. First one is data, the second being algorithms, and the third being post processing. So, how does this help? They aim to ensure fairer and more equitable outcomes. So let's see what are these different techniques. So the data focused debiasing. This has multiple techniques. The major ones or the most important ones are data collection and augmentation, and also data cleaning and pre-processing. Though they seem very complex to look at, they are very simple things. In the under data collection and augmentation, what are being done? The major techniques that he uses address the sampling bias. So use different sampling techniques like oversampling for an underrepresented group, or maybe like a stratifying sampling technique, so that data becomes more bias free. And data augmentation. This is where synthetic data is generated so as to augment the current data set. So what do we do here? We add synthetic data for the underrepresented groups, so the total data set becomes bias free. Now, going to data cleaning and pre-processing. um, the first technique is to identify and remove the biased features. We examine the whole data set and identify and remove those particular features which are more biased, so that the total data set becomes uh, has a reduced bias. Then feature transformation. So here's some specific techniques are applied to transform the sensitive features so that their prediction levels are better and bias free. Now let's look at some of the algorithm focused debiasing. So there are three techniques. One is adversarial debiasing. Here, what is done is we take those particular data, and a separate model is trained for those underrepresented data. And then the original model is penalized against that new model so that the bias reduces. Fairness aware algorithms. So the algorithms, there are specific steps taken so that there are fairness constraints applied while developing the algorithms itself so that it is bias free. Linear models. I guess most of us know about linear models. Linear models are very simple ones and they're very transparent when compared to the complicated models like the neural networks. So to start with a linear model might be a good way to start with debiasing as well. So that becomes makes debiasing a little easier because it is more simpler and transparent. Now we look at some of the post processing techniques. These are, one is calibration. We keep calibrating the data so that it becomes bias free. We reweighting. So in reweighting, what we do is, again, there'll be the minority or specific data which is underrepresented. We add more weightage to that data, so that helps the model to train better and have better predictions for the underrepresented data. Then audits and KPIs. So we keep regularly monitoring the data from the algorithms and models, and we have specific metrics to check the fairness of data. And with those metrics, we again analyze and then feedback into it. Feedback more of data, or more of probably some of the earlier techniques that we discussed, like the database techniques. We can use them to make it more bias free. So these are some of the great techniques to get AI rid of gender bias. And with this, I conclude my presentation. Thank you so much once again, and a very happy International Women's Day to all of you.
So, yes, and Jessica, you can share your screen and we'll be happy to hear your story, making the leap from developer to leader. So, Jessica, I check you see moderator and presenter mode. Can you share your screen? I'll one more time open it. Jessica. Okay, Jessica has small technical issues.
Sorry, I ran into some
No, it's okay. I understand that you have some technical issues. I understand that you reopen this call. So, okay, let's talk about your story. How is going from developer to leaders?
Thank you so much, Anna, for the invitation, and happy belated International Women's Day to everyone. So, the title of my session is Leading the Leap, my first year in tech leadership. So, I'm just going to explain my story and some of the challenges and some of the lessons and key takeaways from this journey so far. So my name is Jessica Randall. So I'm currently Android co-lead at Mentalist. I'm an Android developer and I'm a mathematician also, but I prefer tech and I'm interested in tech. So I'm at the moment I'm transitioning into tech, which is another story, but it's also quite interesting. And I'm passionate about communities. I'm also a Women Techmakers ambassador. I'm also a GDG organizer. And I'm really happy to be a part of these communities and to contribute to society. So I'm just going to give like a little bit of intro about my journey. So these are like the first 4 things that came to mind. So I've been an Android developer, and I was working with this team for about 6 months, and I was doing like all the fun stuff, the coding stuff. And then this year we met, and we had to pick like a co-lead. I mean, we had to pick a tech lead for the project that we're working on. And um, I was really excited. And I also was like, I can do this. I can be tech lead. So I was like, challenge accepted. But I also knew I wasn't quite ready to take on like the full responsibility. So we decided to split the role and give me half, and another person who was a bit more experienced than me at the other half. But yeah, these are the 4 emotions that came to mind. So I love challenges. So I was like, yes, I can do this. And then I was very excited. So I was jumping up and down. And then I was very grateful, because it's not always a space where someone says, okay, I like your suggestion. I think we should do it. I remember we were voting, and we put forward names, and then the person unfortunately at that time couldn't take on the role, and then we put forward a different name, and then they said they had that same role somewhere else, and it was a bit much for them. So I gave the suggestion to be like Android co-lead, like an Android tech lead apprentice, and my Android lead at the time um, was open to it. So that's, I'm very grateful and thankful for the opportunity. And so far, she is happy with the way I've been contributing as a tech lead, which I'm very grateful for. And yeah, that's how the journey started, which is super exciting. And now I'm going to explain the challenges that I had with it. I think when you're like just a dev, you just get all the PR sent to you, and you just have to make sure all the work is done, and you don't have to think about the bigger picture or anything like that. So you have to become like a bit more involved in the tech process. It's not just you have your work and you must get it done. It's more like you have to think of what PRs would best suit your teammates. Do you think that they would manage? How are you going to help them if they ask for help? Like all of those things was what I was challenged with. You have to be more involved as a team player. So like someone who needed help with something and I don't know it, but I know someone that can help them, and I put them in touch with this person, and I said, please communicate with each other so that you can help each other with what you're struggling with. So in that way I had to be more involved. Managing imposter syndrome and self-doubt, because when you become a lead, I don't know if you guys have this, but when you become a lead, you feel like you need to know everything, and you have to be this expert, and you have to have everything under control, and you have to, like, I don't know, almost be perfect, which is not true. Things happen, you get sick, you can't come to stand up, then you have to explain why you can't come to stand up. Like all of those things have factors. It's not possible to be perfect, but the title kind of implied that, so that's why I thought of it like that. And then also balancing my technical responsibilities with my leadership duties. So I obviously also get PRs myself that I assign to myself that I have to do and manage, but I also have to make time that everybody else gets all of their PRs that are assigned to them, and that they understand what they have to do. So it's kind of working on what you have to do, but being available to everyone. That's what being a tech lead is like all about. Available in the sense that if they need something, you are there. But also people can sometimes message you and say, I need help with something, or something broke. I did something wrong on the main branch, and you have to kind of be available for that. And then I was challenged with shifting from like my individual contributions to team outcomes. So when you are like a developer, obviously you work on your single PR and then you contribute it. But now I have to think of what all of us have to do and how that's going to contribute to a team outcome. So we all had this big PR that we had to do, and we all had sections of it, and all of us have to contribute to it. But I mean, if one person is struggling, then it affects the whole outcome of the team, and it leads to delays. So I have to think of, how's the team doing? Not just my PR is done, yay. It's also, my PR is done, yay, but I have to review all the other PRs that everyone else has done, and I have to make sure that I review it properly. So those were like some of the challenges that I had with like shifting from Android dev to Android lead. And some of the key lessons was building strong communication skills. I say this because sometimes, like, we would discuss like PRs, and you obviously have to you have to create the issue and assign a PR to someone. But like sometimes it can be very complex, and your written or your typing communication skills are important. What you type must be actually what they have to do, like so explicit, like to the point. It can't be vague. Like you have to make sure that you cover yourself, that it is communicated in the best way that your team understands you. So I learned about that. I learned how to communicate with team members in stand-up, make sure that they're okay, ask if they're struggling, like create that kind of space where they can ask and they can talk to you. Trust and decision-making. At the moment, we're upgrading our Gradle, and they are trusting in our decisions. And obviously, we had lots of research that we have to do behind that. And then also managing time and priorities. Those were some of the key lessons, kind of juggling a lot of things at the same time. And also code is very tricky. So you could say, I'll have this done, and then it doesn't always work out that way. So I try to plan ahead and make sure that I work around time and try not to assign time to something, because it doesn't always work out quite well. And then I have some memorable moments of my journey so far. Number one, mistakes are normal. What you should do is tell everyone about it, fix it, and then tell everyone how you fixed it. That's the best thing to do. I think I was having problems with my main branch yesterday, and I couldn't get the APK for my product manager. And then I was like, you know what? If something, let's just try. And I did tell her that I had problems with my main branch, and then I fixed it, and then I told her how I fixed it, just so that, yeah, mistakes are normal. You are not alone. Everyone struggles. And I shared a moment with one of my colleagues where they were also struggling to understand what they had to do, and I wasn't the only one. And I just didn't feel alone. Shout for help when you need it. And the second one also goes hand in hand. So don't be afraid to ask for help. Your colleagues want to help you. I even had someone in the group say, "JC, if you need help, I will help you. Just message me and I'll help you." And I think I learned to put my pride in my pocket, because it was an open invitation. And that's kind of nice to receive. So yeah. And then my key takeaways for transitioning from Android dev to Android lead would be, it is challenging, but it is possible. So it's not impossible, it's very possible, especially if you have the support and you are proactive in the role. So I think what helped me was that I'm very proactive in learning how to do things. I would ask, how do you review this? How do you have rules for me? And I would just ask them all the time, what do you do if this happens? What do you do if that happens? How do you do things? I was just very eager also to learn more about the role and what I should be doing. It gets better with time. So time is your best friend. You're not going to know everything in the first week, in the first day, in the first hour. It gets better with time. Don't be so hard on yourself. Don't put unnecessary pressure on yourself as well. I think as soon as we get like into promotions or into titles or into any of those big things, we feel like we have to prove ourselves in those roles as well, which is an extra layer of pressure, if you think of it in that way. So try not to do that. If you feel like you're putting pressure on yourself, rather ask for help or figure out a way how to manage it, but try not to put an extra layer of pressure on yourself. I feel like if you got the promotion or the title that you're given, you are worthy for the promotion or title that you have given. So just make sure that you do the job well. You don't have to put pressure on yourself and say, I have to be perfect. But yeah, just make sure that you do the job well. And then also, I also think put your pride in your pocket. You have this leadership position, which means you have to take care of a team. It it obviously comes with a title, but that's the whole point of being a lead, is to take care of the team and make sure that you take the team from point A to point B, that you lead them and guide them and are there for them. And if you need help, ask for help. And yeah, they are there for you. If you think of it like that, then all the pressures and stresses and anxiety just falls away. Yeah. And thank you for listening to my presentation from going from Android dev to Android lead. I'm still in it, but I'm sure there's lots of things to learn more about. And I hope everyone had a very good International Women's Day. Thank you.
Biggest thanks. Oh, your presentation so impressive, full of so positive images. I like this, and I remember this Android feature. It's a Google input output. Yes.
It was at IO Connect last
Yes.
year.
Yes. I was here also. So yes. And I'm Flutter developer, but I love Android developers also. Yes. So, a huge thank you once again to our incredible panelists, Nakshathra, Sapita, and Jessica. Your insightful contribution to our discussion on Redefine Possible, Women Revolutionizing the Future of AI. We are truly inspiring and valuable. Thank you for sharing your expertise and helping us all invention and more inclusive and transformative future.